all the modern Orthodox movement,
Right.
how much money has the Federation given to Orthodox day schools?
Not much.
Not much. So Pico Robertson was the torture test for the Federation. And to actually walk up and down Pico
And
see bags and see the Federation touching us live, I said, it sort of withered away my skepticism. And I said, now I see what the dream is behind the dream. So although you're right, the actual choice of, they probably overstated the problem. So I think there was a deeper agenda there for the Federation. And ironically now they stopped the program. But it was the only thing that made it real. And one of the big problems in marketing is you get too theoretical. So you forget to get real. And that campaign was real, So that's my 2 cents on that. Well, how did we come up with that? What was the subject?
We were talking about dreams. So
dreams, right.
They were selling a dream of ending hunger, and so...
Right. No, the dream, it would be amazing if people talked about the Federation. If you're the head of the Federation, that's one of the things you want to talk about, because eventually somebody's going to have to sign a check for $100,000 to the Federation.
Right.
That person who's going to sign a check to the Federation is going to remember seeing a program from the Federation last month. You see what I'm saying? So there's brand building involved here. The Federation in New York came up with a very cool campaign. What's your ish? Right? It's connected to Twitter and all that, and it's an interactive campaign where people express their Judaism, right? It's from the Federation. So when they go to do some fundraising, they'll say, well, we did that campaign. So, anytime you have a United Way or sort of one of these, all-encompassing organizations, that is sort of the basic infrastructure is already impersonal. It's a real challenge to make it real. And I think that was the genius of that campaign. And I don't say that just because he was my friend.
Right.
But that was the genius of that campaign, was it made something impersonal personal. All right, number 6.
Yes.
What should I be doing differently this coming year?
I want to make more money, and I want to get married.
Any takers? All right.
I've signed up on Friendster. For the first time, I signed up on Friendster. So I did the J-Date thing when my Jewish Journal cover story came out. I thought, let's hit J-Date, see if there's any. I got nothing. Right. So now I'm like narrow casting to my audience because I want to marry an Orthodox woman, and so I'm signed up on Friendster. So that's a new development. That's what I'm doing different.
Great. Well, we'll probably be here next year, and we can do a progress report. So if anybody out there is taking notes, what should I be doing differently? Well, I want to go back to what I said about Chaim Seidler-Fellerstein, which is the refinement of character, and that's what I'll be working on the next month. I'll be trying to.
How can you be friends with all these lefties? Like I love Rabbi Chaim Seidler-Feller as well, but he is on the left and you are on the right, and most people find it really hard to spend any time at all with people on the other side of the spectrum. So how come you're friends with all these lefties?
Well,
how do you do it?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I think there's 2 answers. The fundamental answer is I love people.
Yeah.
Really, really love people. So I sat down in Israel with people who were to the left of Chaim, because they have some things that I'm really interested in. You can have an intellectual pursuit, or I'm just fascinated by people, so I could see beyond their ideology. I don't want to be my ideology, and I don't think people necessarily are their ideology. So I could sit with David Myers and have a fabulous conversation on a thing of history. And he's to the left of left. So.
Yeah.
Now, that's the fundamental answer. The other answer, when it comes to Israel specifically, is I can get a lot closer to someone from the left if I feel their love for Israel. And I had lunch with somebody from J Street before I left for Israel, and he says, how come my people read you and your people never read me? He was saying, how come the Orthodox and people from the right have an utter disinterest in reading anybody from the left, especially from.
Well, we read the New York Times and the LA Times. They're definitely left of center.
Talking about, the op-eds, and we're not moved by them. One of the reasons we're not moved is because we don't feel their love.
We despise what they stand for.
If I feel their love, Chaim Seidler-Feller has Israel running through every pore of his body.
Mm-hmm.
He has such a deep love for Israel. Uri Hersher has a deep, deep love for Israel. When I hear a critique on Israel from a Chaim Seidler-Feller, it has a whole different meaning. It's like if my mother critiques me. There's such a deep love there. So I can handle it. My problem with the part of the left that tells me they love Israel, but I don't feel their love at all. It's they call it tough love. It's love tough.
Right.
It's not tough love. You know what tough love is? Tough love is, Luke, you make a lot of mistakes. And you really drive me nuts sometimes. And I think sometimes you've really gone over the line in your blog.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're my buddy.
Yeah.
And all things considered, you're a great guy.
Yeah.
That's tough love.
Yeah.
You know what love tough is? You might have a good blog and stuff.
Right.
And you might be doing a lot of, good stuff in the Jewish world. But it's horrible what you're doing on the blog.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
when you end on the bad stuff,
that
makes me suspicious. And a lot of people on the left, this is what I've seen they've done. It's love tough. It's not tough love. So when you go into J Street, they keep telling you how much they're pro-Israel, right? So he said, well, this is what I often see. Well, Israel has a right to defend itself, and terrorism sucks, and and they have every right to exist.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you now what I really want to say.
Yeah.
Horrible. Their liberal values are unraveling, and the way they treat the Arab minorities and the occupation sucks, and blah 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 blah. The glee, the joy, the goosebumps is in the criticism. Whereas, the real lovers of Israel who critique Israel, it's the flip, the other side, Israel makes a lot of mistakes. They got some fundamental flaws, they got bigger things, but all things considered, they're vibrant, they're an amazing country, right? That's tough love for me.
Is your blood pressure going through the roof when you're talking to these lefties and you're just so controlled, or are you calm?
It rarely goes to the roof because I have a lot of trouble hating people. I really, really do. I can't muster hatred. I was with this woman in Israel who makes Chaim Seidler-Feller look like a right-wing fanatic.
Right.
She would not even legitimize the Zionist story, the story of yearning to return to Zion for 2,000 years.
Is she Jewish?
Yeah, she wrote a great book, and I'm saying, look, it's in our prayer book.
Mm-hmm.
My ancestors prayed 3 times a day. Every time there was a chuppah, every time there was a bris, every time we say Shema, we return to Zion at the end of the Seder, and then she wouldn't even buy that. However, she had a lot of redeeming features. She was very knowledgeable on Arabian culture, and she had a deep love for the Middle East. So it was hard for me to just turn somebody into their ideologies, and I feel that both from the left and from the right. I mean, the Peter Beinart piece really annoyed me because I felt it was way exaggerated. It was over the top. It was lacking in context and stuff, and I could never hate ever that kind of stuff. Just there's certain times I'll read somebody from the left, far left, and I'm saying, why are you living there?
Right.
I tried to meet Gideon Levy. I spoke to him on the phone, and he's relentlessly critical of Israel. So I will read that, and I'll say, why are you living there? Can you break it up a little bit? Can you throw in one good column every 4 times? Because even if you're a writer and you become predictable,
right?
Whether from the right or from the left, then that's not a good thing. So one thing that really does annoy me from the left is disingenuousness and hypocrisy. So when they will use it for fundraising. So for instance, J Street is pro-peace and pro-Israel, but their website and all their marketing is all war. So they're always going to war against Alan Dershowitz, against AIPAC. I never feel any peace or love from them. just for your work. Why? Because it's better for fundraising.
Yeah.
So if the New Israel Fund gets in trouble,